You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIAradio.com. Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 184. This is the Real Estate Rundown with Owen Dashner and Ted Kosh. Yeah, baby.
You love that, don't you? All right, check this out. So we've had a wide-ranging slew of executive orders that have been signed by the new
tracking them all?
New administration. Not all of them, no. Okay. Are you?
I've been trying.
Since
to keep
you're
up.
the Politico out of the group.
I'm doing my best.
So I brought this up before we hit record, and you hadn't heard of this. There's discussion going around right now. So we're recording this on January 31st. You'll probably be listening to this here in about a week and a half. They're talking about banning the penny or eliminating the penny from circulation as basically a method of calculating payment, money, all that stuff. So I'm going to cover this up because I could see you try to sneak a look at my my notebook here. What do you think it costs to manufacture a penny? 1 cent.
That's a good question. I was just thinking of that. I'm guessing 12 cents.
Oh, that's pretty high, actually, compared to what it is. Yeah. It's 3.07 cents to make. So every penny we pump out into circulation, it's costing triple. So logically, this makes a lot of sense from just purely a manufacturing perspective on value versus cost, right?
Why don't they just ask everybody to turn in our penny jars at the same time and then it'll be restocked?
I mean, you can't poke holes in that really, but that doesn't also factor in digital currency. So think of all the pricing models out there that are pennies, right? Mm-hmm. So 96 cents, 97 cents, 2 cents, whatever that is. What happens when that gets shaved off? At what cutoff is it a rounding error, up or down? That could be billions of dollars if you factor in the entire economy, right? Like it could be more than that, actually. Like, how is this going to affect penny stocks, like stock prices in general, valuations of company?
You have to keep it digitally.
What do you mean?
I mean, it has to be there digitally. I mean, for like just to make sense of the numbers. I mean, you have to have pennies.
But they're saying you don't have to have them. You just round it, and it's either 0 or 5 cents.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, okay. Even with digital.
Yes.
Interesting. I don't know how you do that. That sounds like a balancing nightmare.
So the logic is, right, it costs more to make them than they're actually worth. So why would we continue doing this as taxpayers?
But if it's digital and not necessarily making them.
Yeah, and that's going to mess with all the conversion rates of foreign currency. What if everybody else isn't on board with this, right? How is that going to affect international trade? There's so many ripple effects to this now that we're in such a global economy.
They're not going to do it.
I don't think so either. The hurdles on this are just almost insurmountable.
Or it stays digital and then
they just eliminate the actual coins themselves. Okay.
Maybe they just eliminate making them.
Yeah, I just thought that was fascinating because like this has been bandied about a few times over the years where that, does this even make sense to have a penny? And people are like, no, I hate pennies.
How many pennies are in production?
That's actually a great question. I don't know how many are in circulation right now. I'll have to pull that up. I should have had that prepped.
I mean, there's got to be. I would hate to even guess what the number is.
Hey, listen, tell us what you think of this. Pennies, good or no? Respond to us in our social media posts here. What do you think about pennies?
Okay, so here's my prediction. They get rid of pennies, and then you're going to see penny floors everywhere.
Oh yeah, the old, like they called it the penny tile. Like they used to have that back in the the early days when they were building early 1900s.
And they look sick.
It does. They're really cool. But if it was actual pennies, it's funny you mentioned that because I remember I was following somebody on social media where they decided to make an entryway all with actual pennies, and then they put a layer of epoxy over it, so it's clear, like a clear coat.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So that's
and they take like their dirty ones and create designs with the clean ones and dirty ones.
It'd be funny if they actually became more valuable since they were taken out of production, and I bet they would. But then it would kind of mess with the copper pricing too, right?
They don't do copper anymore. I thought it changed.
Well, there's a mix, I think, of metals in there, like I think nickel. Well, they used to use zinc when they had the whole war Did you ever have any zinc pennies?
I actually have a whole little mini safe of just old coins.
Yeah, I've got like this tub that my grandparents had because they were collectors. So I have like wheat pennies from like the early 1900s, whole bunch of cool stuff. I was kind of geeking out on coin, like
original silver dollars.
Numismatics is what they call it in the nerd world. So like during World War II, they had a big push where they needed the metal in circulation to manufacture military equipment, right? So during that time, they ended up making a couple years, I believe, worth, it was like 1942, maybe 43, 44. They had zinc pennies. They were all solid zinc and they were magnetic. So like, you know how copper, it's not magnetic. And I remember messing with that when I was a kid. Like I had this big tub of pennies at my grandparents' house and I loved looking through them. Yeah. I had this magnet and you could pull the zinc out of it with it. So it'd be interesting to see what happens to crackheads' livelihoods too. You know, the copper effect. Like, is it going to increase theft, decrease it? I don't see all these wide-ranging ripple effects, Ted. This is what we cover on REIA Radio.
What's a real silver dollar worth?
It depends on the year. See, there's the intrinsic value of the silver, and then there's the numismatic value of the actual coin and the rarity of it.
Yeah.
So I've got some like eagle, like old eagle, silver eagles.
I got some of those.
In the early 1900s, they were solid silver. Really cool because you can actually pick it up and look at the edge of it, and you can tell if it has a copper component to it or other metals in it because it'll look like a sandwich. But if you have the pure silver one, by the edge of it, it's all silver. So yeah, those can be worth some money. I've got quite a bit of that. I don't even know what I really have anymore, but yeah, it's kind of fun to geek out on that stuff.
Well, it's kind of like my son has this app for baseball cards, and so you can actually just scan the baseball card and tell you what it's worth now.
Jeez, that'd be a lot easier than
buying
the Beckett. The Beckett. Yeah, exactly. I actually have a couple of those, like old ones,
because
I have a million baseball. I probably have 20,000 baseball cards from like the 80s era, and
I'm right there with
some one-offs. You know, but of course, that's when they started mass producing them, so they're like not worth anything. You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna hang on to these until I'm old, and then they're gonna be worth so much money, and it's like you could still buy them for like 50 cents for the card. You know what I mean? It's like it was not a good investment.
What's your most memorable baseball football card that you have?
Oh, Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck rookie card. Yeah, from 1989. That was probably the one I was most proud of. But I do have a Mark McGuire when he played on the USA Olympic baseball team. He had his rookie card in 1985 Topps. He was actually at a card show with Tom Gordon. They used to call him Flash Gordon, pitch for the Royals. They were for some reason together. McGuire wasn't the slugger, prolific slugger in the steroid era that, you know, people maligned him for. But I got his autograph on that card and I still have it. That was probably my proudest one. And then, man, I loved Bo Jackson. He was like my all-time idol. Yeah, the bat. I got the shoulder pads.
I got two of those cards.
I had this. So there used to be two posters you could get. One said hit, and it showed him, you know, he was playing baseball, and the other one showed run. He was a football player. And I put them together and laminated it, and then I hung it from my ceiling in my bedroom when I was a kid. I was like, he was my idol. One year, my family actually, like, my aunt and uncle on one side bought me that book, and it was Bo Knows Bo. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And then my parents had already bought me that. So I had Bo Knows Bo for my parents. I had it from my aunt and uncle. And then my grandma and grandpa bought me a copy. So I got 3 freaking copies of that book. That's how into Bo Jackson I was at the time. He was such a beast.
It's amazing how the cards are these days, though.
I know. It's like, here's a piece of their jersey, like embedded in it. There's like one of them.
I have a lot of jerseys. And so in every jersey case, I find like a really nice rookie signed jersey card.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so
do you have them framed?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
And so I put the cards in there with them.
Yeah.
And the other day, my wife was starting to discover how much some of these cards cost.
Your dirty secret is coming out.
One of them is actually, I have 2 of them are one of ones.
Wait till she finds out about your cars.
Yeah. And one's like the actual metal printing plate.
Oh, cool.
And it's a one of one signed.
So did you see this? So Paul Skeens he was the stud pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. First round draft pick, played at the Omaha World Series. And then the very next year, he was an all-star. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm talking about? Pitcher, stud, throws 100 miles an hour, wicked control. So they made a 1-of-1 baseball card. So it was like they don't make anymore. There's only one. The kid pulled it from a pack of cards I think he was in California. Did you see this? So the Pittsburgh Pirates basically contacted the kid or his family. I think the kid was like, I don't know, he's like 13 or something. And they're like, we will invite you. Here's season tickets to the Pirates, and like here's all this other stuff. Like you have VIP access, and like here's an autograph from Paul Skeens and this and that, and bats and all. They put this like package together, and they're like, here you go. Can we have that card? And he's like, dude, pound sand. This thing's worth like probably $2 million on the open market. And he lives in California. Like, how is he going to freaking go to the games all the time? Plus, he's 13. You know what I mean? He's going to miss half of them because of school or whatever. So I just thought that was really interesting. I haven't looked to see if anything new has come of that, but it's really, I just thought that he's kind of like, bro, come on. It's like the classic seller who thinks they have a sweet property despite the actual numbers. And then a buyer comes along and is like, I'll give you like 10% of what you're asking for it.
Have you ever watched the Golden show on Netflix?
Golden Bachelor?
No.
I figured you were watching
Bachelor. That. No, it's Golden is the auction site for like baseball cards and memorabilia. No. And they have like 2 seasons now. It's like Carson's favorite show.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it's all about them chasing down the things to auction. And it's like they had the 1-of-1 basketball card that the guy pulled, and the guy's like, he was just watching this yesterday, and he goes, I was in depression, like I was hospitalized for a year for mental depression. He goes, I opened up a pack of cards, and he's like the dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, it changed my life. And then he goes, now I'm a year in, and I pulled this 1-of-1 card. It was the number 1 basketball player going into the season last year. And then now he's like, yeah, man, this should get like $500,000. And he's like, and he goes, cards just changed my life. And he goes, now I'm able to provide for my family, pay off the house.
Good for him.
And
that's awesome.
You would enjoy that show.
Oh yeah. So do you have anything else from when you were a kid still that you thought was going to be really valuable, and you're just hanging on to it now just out of stubbornness?
I have a Will Clark signed baseball.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, because I was a big Will Clark fan.
Yeah. He was Will the Thrill.
Will the Thrill.
So I was really into, for a period of time, like G.I. Joe's, Star Wars character figurines, and Masters of the Universe, like He-Man. So I had a whole bunch of those, like a lot. And I would trade them with my buddies, and like we'd always like have wars and stuff with them. It's just whatever. You're just kids. But I made my parents swear that they would never get rid of that stuff. So every time I go to my mom and dad's house, now they're of the age where it's like I cannot visit them without coming home with something.
I know that.
Like it's like, here you go, and then they'll try and like sneak it into my coat or whatever, and I get home, I'm like, God dang it, like I don't want any more stuff. I'm trying to give things away, But they, I get it, because I like go there, and my mom's like, will you go downstairs for a minute? And I'll go down with her, and she'd be like, so what are we going to do with this? And it's like shelves of my old crap from when I was a kid. And I'm like, I don't know, Mom. I feel like those G.I. Joes are really going to pop here soon. I don't know. So
my stuff's sitting on in the attic.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. And so every time I go there, like, what are you going to take out of the attic this time? And I don't know how much stuff there's left, but my wife is like major, like OCD, clean everything, organize it. So she's home right now on medical leave for like 6 weeks. And every time I come home, she's like, oh, we're going to organize this part of the house. I'm like, it's already organized. We're going to reorganize it.
Oh, man. Jessica at home. She's the taskmaster.
So I have like 2 bins full of just like my memory boxes. I call them.
Yeah.
And so she made me like, you're going to get these 2 memory boxes down to 1 memory box. So I had to do that the other day.
So it's a consolidation project.
Yes. You're gonna laugh at this. I was a big car stereo guy.
Okay.
I did competitions. I had some really rare, expensive, like handmade amplifiers.
Okay.
And I just won't get rid of them, because back in the 90s, I spent like $1,600 a piece on these things, and they're beautiful. And she's like,
"You are so weird."
She's like, "When are you gonna get rid of these?" I'm like, "I just can't get rid of them." And the funny thing is, some of the stuff I have, like these old Phoenix Gold, there's a huge market for them to get this stuff now, and people are starting to inquire on them. And the guy I know, he's like, you need to start.
Oh yeah, Phoenix Gold. I remember that.
Yeah.
So I actually used to. You may not know this. I used to install car stereos for Radio Shack.
I didn't know that.
When I was in high school. I'd get $20 for an install. That's how much. But here's what's funny. So I had this like Chevy Cavalier. It was like my first real car. Well, my very first car I wrecked. 2 weeks after I got my license, like totaled it. And then
I wrecked my Chevy Citation on day 1.
Did you?
me and my buddy Martin.
That's why I'm terrified. My daughter's 16. I'm just terrified now, because I'm like, I know what a jackass I was driving around.
Marty McGuire hit me.
He did?
Yeah, on the football field.
Marty. And now he's an insurance agent.
We were driving on the football field.
Oh my god! So I gotta tell this quick story. So the car stereo thing. So I'm learning how to do this, right, and every car is a little different with the wiring stuff that's inside. So once you pop the stereo out, you need like a mounting kit and all this stuff, or at least you did back then.
But now you can't even take them out because they're all everything's included in a screen and it's impossible.
Yeah. I could. Yeah, I'd charge probably like at least $25 now to do that. But I remember I was putting one in my car, and of course, like I blew all my money at Radio Shack, so I was always buying like CDs and car stereo equipment, amps, subs, all that stuff, right? I remember I was trying to put in, I think it was my first or second one that I was putting in, and I put it in my Chevy Cavalier, and I remember driving down Main Street, and I see my dad, and this is a small town, right? It's like there's Main Street, and then there's not much else.
That's it,
yeah. I'm passing him on the way. I'm going home, and he's passing me the other way.
He's like, "What up, yo?"
No, I was like, I kind of gave him the wave, and he is like looking at me like he's so mad. And when I was a kid, like my dad could be pretty. I was a little scared of him sometimes. He never did anything bad or anything like that at all. He was just like, when he was mad, he was like, I listened.
I get it.
And so I remember this because I was driving down Main Street and he was driving past, and he looks really mad. He's just like staring at me like the whole way, like I'm passing him. He watches me the whole time. I'm like, geez, what did I do? I get home. He comes home a little later and he's like, so what's going on with your car? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I just, I put in a new car stereo and this and that. I just got back from Radio Shack for some parts. And he's like, why are your fog lights still on? And I'm like, what? I go out and I look and my car's off, right? So I had somehow hot wired the fog light, the orange fog lights or whatever on the car. They were on the whole time. Like, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I like got shocked and anyway, that's why I didn't go into that for a career. RIP Radio Shack.
I used to work at Stereo West here locally. And sold car stereos. So I get this life.
Yeah. So
another thing we have in common that we didn't
look
know
at
about.
that. It's all coming back full circle. So update for you. So last real estate rundown, I mentioned that we made an offer on the Prague Hotel. Remember this?
Did you get it?
We did not. Yeah, I know. I really was. The more I thought about it, the more I really wanted that place. So the Prague Hotel, guys, I mentioned this last week, but it's an iconic building in the Little Bow area near downtown Omaha, and it's getting revitalized. That area is a lot of stuff going on. Really cool spot. And we were going to buy this historic building. And the punchline here is there were 10 offers, and we made a pretty strong offer. We made an asking price offer, and we had an escalation clause to go up another, I don't know, like 25, 30 grand, something like that. Or maybe a little more than that even. Evidently, ours got blown out of the water. He said there were 10 offers, and there were definitely some sentimental offers in there where people loved the building and the history of it, so they wanted to keep it as a trophy, more or less. So I'm really curious to see what it actually sold for. So we'll have to circle back around on that eventually.
What an opportunity that could have been, especially as that area redevelops.
Oh yeah,
I think that area will eventually be bigger than the Blackstone area, which is a pretty prominent area here in Omaha.
I can't poke holes in that theory because the only thing about that spot is it's 13th and people just fly down that street. You know what I mean? It's hard to make it a walkable, like the Blackstone is. There's a lot of traffic, but it's pretty slow and there's parking lots and stuff like that. This is like trucks and all kinds of people just hauling ass down.
And as it grows, that will change.
Yeah, they'll probably divert it or widen it or something. But
and if this rail car system goes really well, I mean, watch them put a rail car system line going down towards the zoo, and I mean I think that'd be a great strip personally. But we'll see.
So I had an interesting meeting this week too. One that I've never really actually participated in myself. So as I mentioned before, I've got this hotel redevelopment in Branson, Missouri that I'm partnered with Axel and Andrea Foley.
And that'll be done this year?
It will be 12/15 of the way done by the end of this year. So it should wrap up probably first quarter, late first quarter.
12/15.
Yeah, so this is a 15-month construction project right now.
Okay.
So what I sat in on, Axel normally jumps on these calls, but because he's kind of like the project manager for the construction part of this thing. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of an OAC call?
No.
So that stands for owner, architect, and contractor. And so you get the gist of it by the title.
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah. So typically when you have a development or a bigger redevelopment project where you're involving, typically this is in the commercial side. not residential mainly. But so you get on the call, and basically it's an update call. Like here's progress based on the timeline that we had, the budget we had. Here's everything that is on the near term schedule. Here's kind of the roadmap for it. And then it's kind of a Q&A thing. It's an update call, Q&A, like what decisions do we need made, all that. And it was, I don't know what I was expecting on that, but it was, I don't know, it was just, I liked it. It was a more formalized call than your normal contractor call when you're dealing with residential contractor. So that was neat. And we've got.
That's why you paid big money.
Yeah, right. We've got, speaking of big money, we're about to have siding go on 3 of the 5 buildings that are remaining, which that is the most dramatic impact.
Yeah.
Yes.
The street appeals.
So I can't wait for that. That's going to be really cool. So they're doing doors, windows, siding on the exterior. They're doing, a lot of the electrical and utility work and all that stuff underground. We have to bring in, like you have to solve for things on properties like this because you want to provide Wi-Fi, but that's a lot of infrastructure. So you have to get the wire. You have to make sure there's proper size conduit that'll actually fit underground. And if it doesn't, you got to add it. That means trenching. That means, potentially jackhammering floors in the buildings. It's pretty involved, right? And we added a new hydrant, which I mentioned before. So anyway, a lot of stuff happening there. Pretty cool.
Does that make you nervous to know that you have glass going in when you obviously have potential vagrants in the area?
Oh, yeah. That is actually a great question. So we have had problems with break-ins, people just, kicking in plywood. Even if something has a plywood sheet over it, they're just still kicking the crap out of it until the whole door frame collapses. 2 things are in our favor here. We've obviously secured all the exteriors, so the windows, the doors, and so forth. But like you mentioned, we start putting new stuff in. What's to stop people? The thing is, when construction kicks back up again, this place was long known to be vacant for 2, 3, 4 years. So a lot of people would just go there and get warm during the winter time because if they're homeless, they have nowhere else to go. They're just looking for a place to crash out of the wind. So anyway, once construction starts up and there's a lot more activity on site, people find elsewhere to go. Plus, the weather's going to be starting to warm up
you got
here.
Security there,
with security, off, yeah. Yep. So good stuff happening there. I'm happy with how progress is going now on it. We've got a good schedule.
This is your beer, buddy.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be good. So that's been happening. What's in the Kosh household / world? Anything new cooking in your area?
I'm just last year the goal was to simplify my life.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that. And this year's goals are, transition. The transition is getting out of traditional real estate. I'm going to keep one Airbnb, but getting out of traditional real estate and doing something new. And I've been putting it out to the world that I really want to dig into storage units. I've been, talking to the people in that category. I've been reading books. So that's just kind of where my focus is.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. I had a partnership that just didn't work out, and it is what it is. But I was able to sell off one of those properties the last couple of weeks, and then another property I'm getting rid of today. I'm actually going to sign those papers after we leave here at the studio.
Good for you.
So I'm gonna take that weight and that eye twitch away.
Tedder has been a little stressed the last little bit.
I'm ready for something new because I just feel like I feel a lot more confident in my abilities. I'm way more educated than when I first stepped into this. I feel like I have a little bit more direction of what I want. And I feel like this podcast has helped educate me a lot more.
Same. Yeah, it's absolutely the same. Yeah,
time with you, but also the time with the people that we do. That I don't necessarily get to interview. I just get to listen, get interviewed. But yeah.
What I love about this business, as much as sometimes I hate it, just because bad things can happen that are really expensive, aka Molotov cocktails that I mentioned before.
It's so crazy.
But the thing I love about it is I will go through burnout periods, and you've been through a couple of them with me, or at least experienced them alongside me.
I give you hugs.
Sorry, bud. And what I love about it, though, is there's always something different that you could learn and pivot into and try. And it doesn't mean you have to stick with it forever. You're not 18 years old again having to decide what you want to be for the rest of your life because you have to pick your major, right? This is so great because, I'm really pumped about my liquid lending business. And that's been super fun for me personally, just to learn it and all the business processes and people and how it all ties together, capital markets. So I feel like I've gotten a shot in the arm with regard to just enthusiasm just being involved in something new. Yet I'm still involved in the, old tried and true stuff that I'd done before, which is buying rental properties, value add stuff, doing some flips. I'm still doing those things. It's not my passion really at this point, but I do like taking down cool properties. Like the Prague Hotel would have been a really neat project to get a hold of. So I don't know, man. I think, variety is the spice of real estate life.
Yeah. One thing that's been kind of fun over the last couple weeks is I've been doing some work on my apartment, my little 5-unit apartment building.
Yep.
And it just things just were needing some updates. Mm-hmm. And I showed it to somebody that was actually interested in buying it last night. And she walked through and she's like, wow, I didn't expect it to be like this. And I was like, hey, if you buy it, great. If you don't, I'm moving forward and I'm going to take over management myself. I feel very confident on this now. And the one unit I've been managing has been making over $2,000 a month. So this building has a lot of potential, and I'm moving forward, and I'm going to prove the numbers that it can make. And she's like, "Yep, I see exactly where you're coming from on this." So,
you didn't go down the rabbit hole with all the stuff that you do to run an Airbnb and scare her off.
And she already has she has Airbnbs in Boston.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
And she was a real licensed realtor. She wanted to get a place for her kid who was going to Creighton to live, but also where she could come and stay when she visits. So.
Hey, one other thing in the news I wanted to bring up. I know I bounced a little bit here around on topics, but did you see that there's kind of it's getting under scrutiny now with Elon Musk coming into and assuming his position as the Doge czar, Department of Governmental Efficiency. And one of the things that has been really kind of bubbled up has been the fact that in the United States, there are 770,000 government buildings that are vacant.
I believe that.
I had that as a note, and we are spending $1.7 billion in operating expenses just because these vacant buildings are owned. So all the maintenance, all the stuff that it takes to, even if you're not having people actually work there, what a huge waste. How did it get to this point? It is just mind-boggling.
So when I was business partners with Mike and Jerry Schlickburn, we about 5 years ago, we found the perfect building. It was a government-ran building. It was listed for sale. Went through the whole process. It was huge. It was like 3 stories and it had a huge conference room, and it was right downtown here in Omaha. And I don't remember the square footage, but I mean, it had to be 20,000 plus. Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, here's a great opportunity. So we negotiated price. Things were coming down to it. The government actually nixed it. And this whole building, the only thing they used was one office in the basement still. They built a whole new building to replace this. And in that office, they stored free cell phones to get it was like a Section 8, the original Section 8 building.
Okay.
And so they had free cell phones for people that they gave away. So there was thousands of cell phones in there. Other than that, there was a drop box for people to put their rent checks in. And I'm sitting and had a drive-through and everything. I'm like, you're telling me that you're going to maintain this whole building, which had multiple leaks starting from the roof, this huge conference center in there. And then they declined the sale in the end. And then it goes, yeah, it went to Congress and they elected not to sell the building. And I'm like, why? And the crazy part is I'm walking through there and they left every piece of furniture, filing cabinet, computer, everything was in there. And
so much waste.
And it was vacant for years.
Yeah.
And you know what was also crazy? Every one of those people's personal files were still in those cabinets.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't surprise me either.
I'm like,
just so inefficient and such a waste. Personally, I'm kind of like cautiously optimistic that there's some good that's going to come of this with shaving expenses. But a lot of people are, because the early results of kind of the short analysis that's been done on the low-hanging fruit is like we could potentially save $100 billion, which honestly kind of sounds like a drop in the bucket anymore because everything, I mean, it seems like we ship that to the Ukraine every other week for money. But yeah, I just think that's going to be interesting to see how this comes. Is there going to be a lot of commercial property that's going to be entering the market? If so, how's that going to affect the pricing of others? But stay tuned on that. This is going to be fun to watch, see how they go about unwinding in this and all the infighting that's going to happen.
The government waste is rampant. You got to fix it.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I'm most excited about myself. So I'm excited to see it. I hope they actually get to a point where they have a balanced budget or better.
Well, I have something to talk about here related to wasting money or found money. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
In today's
Golden Nugget. And this Golden Nugget is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844-WE CLOSE or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
Today's golden nugget. You probably know this. I bet there's some listeners here that have never heard of this and didn't know it was a thing. So I wanted to bring this up because this actually just kind of unknowingly, we had something out there. What I'm talking about is the state unclaimed property. Have you ever heard of this? So
Explain.
Property doesn't necessarily mean properties like you think as a real estate investor. It could mean assets of any type. Mm-hmm. So typically you're going to find money.
Yes, I am aware of this, yeah.
So in each state, I believe, at least I know Nebraska and Iowa have this, but in each state, they will have basically a program where unclaimed money typically ends up. So my cousin actually screenshotted something, and my wife's name was listed as something like $100 was unclaimed in the state of Nebraska. For whatever reason, my cousin was scrolling on there and found, she was just looking for last names, Dashner, and she found my wife's name and screenshot it, sent to me. I go, hey, did you know this? Sent it to her, and it turned out it was a credit that she had at Borsheim's, which is a jewelry store in Omaha, pretty well-known one, that she just didn't know about. Like we'd either returned something or something like that. So she had like $100 or maybe a little less than that just went unclaimed. So it was sitting in there like accounts payable. And after a period of time, they can no longer hold on to that. So they have to turn it over to the state government. And they have this basically department devoted to tracking all these unclaimed assets. So when you get bored, if you're scrolling and need a break and you're like, man, I need to make some more money, get on state unclaimed property, Google your state and the unclaimed property part, and you may find some money in there. You can thank us later. Buy us an old fashioned.
I wonder why title companies don't have to, like, escrows that go unclaimed wouldn't have to go there eventually. Because remember we interviewed with Dave Welty?
Yes.
And I don't remember if it was on or off air. He talked about the amount of money that's sitting in their account.
I had an escrow, like it was $500 or $1,000, something like that. I had a property under contract. The seller ended up backing out, and then he moved away and just like, he was ghosted. We couldn't find him anywhere. Changed cell phones, didn't know where his forwarding address was, just gone, But they would not release that earnest deposit.
Yeah.
And so they held on to it. And I was just like, come on, I can't get a hold of the guy. This sale clearly never went through. Like there's no transaction here. Like, can I get this released? And they're like, no, we can't do that. We have to hang on to it until we're able to have it released by the seller and the buyer. There's a mutual agreement. So that's a stipulation there. But finally, like 5 years later, I'd completely forgotten about it. And I happened to be doing a closing at a title company, and they go, hey, by the way, you have some unclaimed whatever. And apparently, I don't know if they ever ended up getting a hold of the guy. I think they might have, but I actually got that money returned to me years and years later. So think of the time value of money on some of these earnest deposit transactions. If it's in an interest-bearing account is one thing, but it's probably not.
Didn't you say it was like close to $1 million?
It could be. I'd have to listen to it again. But yeah, just so...
That's one company.
I know one title company. So just saying, there may be a treasure hunt out there that you might want to embark on and recover some dough. That's today's golden nugget.
And that is a real golden nugget.
It is. Well, man, that about wraps up the current events in the Dashner goings on here in national news. So got anything else?
Yeah, no. Well, episode 185 is coming up on Wednesday with Bill Twyford.
That took several attempts for Ted, which is always funny to me.
But yeah, interesting gentleman, done a lot of investing. He's got a crazy story over the years.
The rock star of real estate.
He is, leather pants and all.
Yep. So stay tuned for that episode. This guy's been in the real estate world for over 40 years and has learned a ton along the way, bought basically most of his hometown, the Main Street area, and repurposed, revitalized that. He had some major health scares along the way, went through a failed marriage, went into a successful one. Stay tuned to find out how I was connected to his wife indirectly in the early days of my real estate investing career, and what she has out there in circulation for information.
Stay tuned, Jen.
Yeah. She will never hear this episode, I'm sure. So,
well, with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear, Ted Kosh, and REIA Radio, you've been listening to the Real Estate Rundown. Signing off.
This episode is also brought to you by PropStream and Magic Door.
Wicca. If you want to make Jory mad, just get some water bottles in the picture.
Just set it right here. We should do that one of those days. Just like set up a whole bunch of them. Just make a tower.
That would be kind of funny.
Ready for the podcast. Just have them like stacked in front of us. So we can just see our head or our eyes.
Get everybody in the office, put their water bottles on the table.
We're so mature.